Back when Valve announced the Steam Deck, one of the things that they did was they partnered with IGN and did a series of interviews where they talked about the Steam Deck and their plans, and they explained everything about it. Gabe Newell was part of that process, and one of the things that he said in his interviews was that the price point for the Steam Deck was painful. So what exactly did he mean by painful? Well, we really don't know for sure because Valve hasn't told us how much it costs them to make a Steam Deck, but I think pretty much everybody, myself included, we all assume that Valve is losing money on the hardware for the Steam Deck. So how can they pull that off? Well, they have the Steam Store, and the Steam Deck drives more sales on the Steam Store. I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I know that after I picked up my Steam Deck, I started to buy way more games on Steam. It is their loss leader. Essentially, PlayStation and Microsoft do exactly the same thing. They lose money on the sales of hardware, and then they make up that money on the sales of software. Now, if you look at the 3 original SKUs for the Steam Deck, the only real difference between them was how much storage you got, how fast that storage was, and whether or not you got the anti-glare etching on your screen. And of course, there were some slight differences with the case that came with the Steam Deck, but for the most part, they are the same hardware across the board, which is why I think that they're losing money on the lowest tier one. Then last year, they unveiled the OLED Steam Deck, which I cannot imagine cost them any less to make than the original Steam Deck, but they kept those same price points. The OLED deck's most expensive version was the same price as the most expensive version of the Steam Deck LCD. All that Valve did was drop the price of the first ones. Now, before we go any further in the video, I want to say that as I've been doing in the last few videos, I'm showing some B-roll or some video of some really cool indie games. If one catches your eye, I will leave the title of the game on the screen while it's showing so that you can add it to your wish list. And if there are any indie games that you think deserve more attention, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below that like button. All right. Let's get back to what we were talking about. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that Valve is probably losing money on the OLED deck just as well as they were on the LCD deck. In fact, I would hazard a guess that they are probably losing more money. If they're not losing money, I can't imagine they're making much money. Maybe they're breaking even on it, especially when you look at the other companies in this space. All of the other handhelds are more expensive than the Steam Deck. I am betting that's because they don't have the Steam Store to make up that money on. These devices are not their loss leaders, so they don't have the ability to sell it any cheaper no matter how hard they try. They just cannot compete on price with the Steam Deck, and now they're going to have an even harder time competing on price with the Steam Deck OLED because now it has refurbished models that you can go and pick up, and the prices are really good. You can now get a certified refurbished Steam Deck OLED 512 gigabyte model for $439. You can get the 1 terabyte model for $519. These are crazy good deals. That is over $100 off both models. So if you've not yet picked up a Steam Deck, I'm here to tell you that you absolutely should. It's a fantastic device. I did a whole video about my first 6 months with the Steam Deck. There's a link in the description down below so you can check that out. I also did another video about my first year with the Steam Deck and how the Steam Deck has changed over time since launch, as well as reviews of the OLED Steam Deck and numerous podcasts where I sit down with my friends and we talk about handheld PCs. So if you are on the fence, I definitely recommend you check those out. But if you already have a Steam Deck, there has never been a better time for you to upgrade to the OLED Steam Deck because these prices are really great. When the Steam Deck first launched, Valve ran into all kinds of production issues. They couldn't make Steam Decks fast enough, and so they ended up having to delay until February of 2022. Then they had originally planned on launching at the end of the year in 2021, and it took them almost all of 2022 to catch up on their pre-orders. Then they opened up the floodgates and they said, okay, now we're going to start selling them in other regions. And they launched into the Komodo region, which has 4 Asian countries that is supported by ordering your stuff through Komodo. And Komodo has been partnering with brick and mortar stores in order to get the Steam Deck into those physical locations. And I'm sure that the OLED deck is also available there. That way you don't have to buy the Steam Deck online. Now, as far as I know, there's no place in the States where you can go into a store and buy a Steam Deck, at least not yet. But I do think that eventually we will start to see Steam Decks in stores outside of those regions, and I look forward to Valve bringing the Steam Deck to more regions as well. But even if they do bring it into stores, I don't think you're going to be able to have the ability to pick up refurbished Steam Decks in stores. I just don't think that Valve's going to be shipping them that way. So the only way that you're going to be able to get these refurbished Steam Decks is by going to steamdeck.com or buying it directly from Valve, which is essentially the same thing. Honestly, I'm not surprised that this is happening, especially now that the refurbished LCD models are completely sold out. I know some people might be on the fence about buying a refurbished device, but my friend Bob Wolf has a great video about this. He bought one of the refurbished LCD decks back when Valve first brought those out for sale, and he did a video about his experience with it before he gave it away. I will link to his video down below that like button. They do come with a limited warranty, so if you do run into issues, I'm sure that Valve will do whatever they can to help make it right if you do end up going with a refurbished model over the more expensive new models. When you pick up your Steam Deck, I've got some really good news for you. Valve constantly has sales going on. In fact, at the time that I record this, the winter sale is just around the corner, and you are going to get so many games super cheap. So if you've got some extra money laying around because you just saved a bunch of money on getting a cheaper Steam Deck, then you can use that to buy a bunch of games. And you're going to get a lot of these games really, really cheap. Now, if you are downloading a bunch of games, you may run low on storage, and that is very likely to happen during the winter sale that's coming next week. So you may be interested in picking up a new SSD or an SD card in order to increase your storage. I have links in the description down below for both. If you don't want to, if you're interested in opening up your Steam Deck in order to install an SSD, just know it has to be an M.2 drive, actually more specifically an M.2 2230 drive, and you can get those in a bunch of different storage options. Like I said, links down below for that. And the whole process of installing it is pretty easy. But if you don't have a whole lot of confidence about opening up your hardware and you don't want to risk something going wrong with it, then you can just go with an SD card instead. SD cards are perfectly fine to run games off of, and it really isn't that big of a deal. One thing I will say is that if you have been using an SD card and you deciding to upgrade your SSD, make sure that you remove your SD card from the bottom of the Steam Deck if you had one in there before you open up the Steam Deck. Otherwise, you will break the SD card in half and you will be a very unhappy nerd. I do have a video about Steam Deck accessories that's also linked down below as well. So what are you guys going to do? Are you going to be somebody that is picking up a refurbished Steam Deck for the first time? Or are you replacing your old Steam Deck with an upgraded version now that it's on sale? Maybe you're picking one up for a family member now that Christmas is right around the corner. Let me know in the comment section down below, but no matter what, when your Steam Deck does arrive, make sure that you check out this video right here, which is 5 tips for new Steam Deck owners. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, and thanks for watching.